almost impossible to think all of those things could happen in that way.
It does.
Public demand for transparency and accountability was insatiable.
Jeffrey Epstein.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
Shut up! I know he's your friend, but I don't care. Culminating in the release of the Epstein files.
When will we just not see any arrests from the revelations in the Epstein files?
Do you think you're the devil himself? No, but I do have a good mirror.
This is the story they tell.
I don't think there's a more essential issue than the issue of climate change.
The future of the auto industry. There's no turning back.
This is a preview of things.
More Americans could soon get a chance to drive a vehicle made in China.
The new vehicles that we're making for data collection, they're like mobile drones.
We're going to be noisy. We're going to be disruptive. We're going to be unignorable. We're going to be a pain in the arse until you listen to us.
The first factor easily discerned by anybody who has their eyes open that compromises and erodes the hopeless existential the world that we're getting from science is the idea that nature is in fact across all scales and all levels phenomena a unity. It's not a coincidence that electrons spinning around an atomic nucleus and planets going around a star and clusters orbiting around the gravitation of the galaxy. It's no coincidence that these systems exhibit the same kind of order on different scales. And yet science would say that is a coincidence. P.W. Bridgman, who was a philosopher of science, defined coincidence as what you have left over when you apply a bad theory.
Truth is not a given.
Vaccines, GMOs,
Jeffrey Epstein,
UFOs.
Splashed. Mark bearing and range.
There are those who want the truth suppressed, sequestered, and exploited. Then there are those who want the truth revealed, disseminated, and uncensored. You are one of those people.
Chester Bennington. He was 41 years old and the artist was found dead.
I see the need for action. I see the need for a great reset.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society.
Hundreds of abusive clergy.
It was unidentified, and that's why it was so unsettling.
You deserve the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
You are watching Dauntless Live.
What's cooking, everybody? Welcome to Dauntless Live. I am your host, Adam Riva. Today is June 15th, 2026. We are simulcasting on X, YouTube, BitChute, Rumble, and on our own website. We have an awesome show in store for you today. We have a guest today we're going to be hanging out with. And if you have questions, remember to drop them in the chat. Head over to dauntlessdialogue.com. This is our streaming platform, recently rebuilt. We're really stoked on the new layout. You can find all sorts of stuff, and it's going to feel and look very similar to what you're accustomed to with Netflix and HBO and Hulu and all the rest. We specialize in producing original documentaries and entertainment, but we also curate third-party content from across the web, stuff to red pill your friends and family, smack you across the face with some truth, and lead you down new rabbit holes that you probably were unaware of, or maybe haven't gone all the way deep as you can go in those rabbit holes. You can find us on Roku. We also are there, and you can stream from the comfort of your couch. You have, I'm logged in right now, so I can't show you, but basically we have 3 different subscription plans for you. You can sign up on a monthly basis, on an annual basis, and save some money. And also we have a gold pass, which is a one-time purchase for a lifetime membership. I think that's pretty sweet. And we're going to be doing live streams that are exclusive just for our Gold Pass members. So that's another little perk there. We are trying to grow and we could use your support. So please consider that today. We have so many series for you to check out. We have a lot of original content, as I mentioned. You can browse by films, because not everything is part of a series. And there's so much to get into. We also have music videos. So, there's all sorts of things, whatever mood you're in. And we recently optimized for our 4K films for mobile viewing. And somebody had noticed that over the past week. So thank you for saying something. By the way, guys, if you ever find any glitches or bugs in the new site, it's very new. So feel free to reach out. You can submit it through the contact form in the footer and just say, hey, Adam, found something. You might need your attention. So anyone who had issues streaming, particularly our 4K films on mobile, that should be resolved. You can also support us if you click on the shop button. These are our friends over at Rise Attire, and you're going to find epic merch with our logo. You can also support the Vibes series if you click Signature Series and Vibes. As many of you know, this is our series done by Adrian of Rise, which is a deep dive into cymatics and consciousness and frequencies and the sonic universe that we live in. And so they have 2 separate clothing collections for each of the episodes, one for each of the episodes. And there's guys stuff, gals stuff. I mean, there's such cool designs. These friends of ours over at Rise, we're going to be talking with Mrs. Rise Attire today. They know what they're doing. They sell evil-free clothing, and their whole website is worth checking out. It's all made right here in America, and they're good friends of the show, good friends of mine. I'm happy to know them. They're just incredible people, and they have so much that appeals to our culture and our truth movement. So check them out. Whatever your style, whatever your conspiracy theory of choice, I'm sure they've got something for you. And, I just want to mention too, like our recent rebranding that we did, I'd say probably about 6 months ago. Well, that was Mrs. Rye's Attire. So, we are indebted to them in more ways than one. And we're going to be talking all about her new short film today. Hopefully we don't have any issues today. This is only the second time that I've hosted a guest in OBS. Last time was Adrian, Mr. Rye's Attire. And we had a couple of technical snafus, so my fingers are crossed. I'm praying, and I'm hoping we're not going to run into anything, particularly audio issues. So without further ado, let me just make sure everything is set and ready to go. It's not. What the heck happened here? Bear with me, guys. Looks like I got booted out of my own... Oh, you know why? I think I know why. Because I had to change. No, I'm still in there. Bear with me. Bear with me, everybody. Let me see if I can just pop right back into the meeting. Oh, please, oh, please. Okay, here we are. There we go. Let's see now. I gotta change the window that I'm capturing. Goodness gracious, we're doing it live, guys. All right, well, that's my email. Don't want to see that. Let's change that real quick. And is this it? Nope. This it? Nope. This it? Nope. It's one of these. Oh. I'm so upset. Okay, bear with me. See, this is exactly why I said we're probably going to have technical issues today. And why can't I get it? Okay, let's try this. There we go. Wait, no. There we go. I've got to change the... Oh, this is going to screw up everything else that I set up earlier because it's the wrong window. Hi, Mrs. Rye's Attire. Can you hear me?
I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
I can. Hopefully the internet can hear you. Let me just reposition you.
Right?
Yeah. All right. Well, look. It's good and it's not perfect, but it's good and you're there and we're talking. And let me just double check that you're coming through because... I don't know what happened. All I did was open a different window. It logged me out of our meeting, and now I can't get it to log back in. Dang. Adrian says he can't hear us.
Really?
Okay. Hang tight. Hang tight.
Good luck.
Okay.
Testing.
Okay, I think we're back. Why are there two now? Sorry, Christina.
That's okay. I know the struggle. Trust me. We've done this for years.
Oh my God, I feel like an amateur. What the heck is going on here? I'm sure everyone in the chat is cringing. Okay.
You can always re-upload this episode and cut out this part if you want to.
For sure.
This recording.
No. Okay. Well, at least they're hearing you now. I'm just reorganizing everything on screen like in real time. Okay. Why don't I ask you a question and then while you're answering, I'll make it look all nice.
Sure.
First of all, a rather bumpy start to the show. Thank you for joining me. Obviously, if you're a member of Dauntless, you've seen Mrs. Rye's Attire's new film, The Crystal Veil. So a couple questions for you out of the gate. What year were you born, and why are you in love with the 1980s dark fantasy aesthetic? Tell me about that.
Sure. Okay. I was born in 1988, and I am obsessed with it. I don't know if it ever left my things I love. Like, you got a favorite color, favorite music, favorite band, and like favorite, I don't know, aesthetic or visual appeal is anything like that. 80s, especially as millennials. I think people our age group, but you're the same age. I think you're also 88, right? Or no, you're 2 years younger than
I'm
me.
90.
You're 90. Okay, yeah, that's right. So you are 2 years younger than me. I've got my technical assistant also addressing anything on my end, which is Mr. Eyes. So thank you. He's turning up my microphone. Gotcha. So I think our generation responds to our childhood like that. We think about this all the time. There's even a sub niche of YouTube watchers and content creators that are obsessed with things of that era of our childhood, from 80s to 90s, but anything like 80s to pre-2000, because of the unique, unlikely, and never to happen again time in human evolution, I guess, or just technological evolution, whatever it is. I grew up with no internet, playing outside. Our memories were not documented at every second, and we had the cherished analog things that were still, like, especially disposable cameras and VHS tapes, and that stuff is so, I don't know, it's like this mythic sort of I don't know, my origin story begins with those kinds of things, and the analog entertainment. And just like today, kids are still going to watch whatever a million times, but for me it was the Dark Crystal, it was the Wizard of Oz, and it was Never Ending Story and things like that. And I really never fell out of love with those stories, and I like watching what our generation is now doing. We grew up, we got the internet, we got these things, and we're the last generation ever to grow up and have childhoods without that technology and social media. And we're also the first generation to we're right in the middle between, like, being, I don't know, more advanced or have access to more information than our predecessors, but also perhaps still use our minds and our thinking capacity a little bit more than the generation like after us has literally a meme about it being the brain rot generation. Like, we're kind of uniquely positioned to both cherish and build from what we came from and preserve what was good and what we loved. And we're the stewards now of this of culture. And that's part of why I love what I'm seeing with a lot of content creators in our age group, is that we are romanticizing and revisionist, kind of making the actual 80s were just wood paneling and like pink curtains, and it wasn't really nearly as glamorous as we're reliving it to be. But that's the power of entertainment, storytelling, and movie making, and mixed media, digital media. We can take what was great and just crank it up to 100, and that's pretty much my personality in a nutshell. Is just take what I love and just crank it all the way up. So it was really a joy to play in that sandbox and use those tools. That I'm sure we're going to get into the tools a little bit too, but that's the philosophy, is to just take something that was a sliver in time and that is kind of appealing to people my age right now, and be like, hey, parents out there, if you grew up like me, you'll get this. And even if you didn't pick up on that or whatever, it's still it's set in medieval times that everybody can relate to. What, a story about kings and queens, you don't have to be from it to get it. And the 80s thing is just something that if you're alive now, you probably remember, and there's very little to be mad at about the 80s aesthetically. I think hopefully other people like it too.
Well, I am not a child of the 80s, but I do have a nostalgia for it. I feel like I missed out on the good times, and I loved the 90s, but I think that there was something even more special in the 80s. And so much of the social engineering and the cultural agenda began to be pushed on mainstream media in the 90s, and the 80s, I don't know, there's something special there.
Yeah,
and
I think maybe because we didn't have quite the technology, just being a lower middle class kind of family, like the 80s spilled over. Like, I absolutely love my Nickelodeon. I was only 2 when you were born. So yeah, I'm a 90s kid, but I would say the nostalgia for those things. The magic came from things that just happened to be produced in the 80s. And I talked to my mom a lot about, like, what was it like? What were the 80s like? And she said everybody felt really, between the 80s and then it carried over into the 90s, people felt really optimistic about their, like, a career could just get you a house, a kid, you know, could take care of the family. You could get a single job out of college and then grow and support your entire family on a single income. And there was a lot of opportunity. And even though the economy has always been controlled and crappy, people had dreams and they were kind of living them out in a way that was very romantic at the time.
Yes, absolutely. And as you're describing, there are so many of these like cultural pushes now for hopefully the audio is good, and yeah. I just boosted you by 6 decibels, so I hope you're coming through clearly now.
Yeah, my mic volume is automatically sliding down on its own, so we fixed that now.
Weird. It's always something. But I really want to focus on what you're saying and stop having to worry about all of the the settings on my end. Okay, so talk to me about like where the inspiration and the idea came to you from. Like, why did you decide to go in this direction with the film? For those people who haven't seen it, we're going to be showing a preview momentarily, so sit tight. But did this like strike you in the middle of the night, in a dream? How did this come to you?
In the middle of the night? The night character, the Guy Fawkes wearing Anon mask, donning hero of our story is a character that we've, as Rise, as a brand, as a husband and wife even, we have a deep connection with that mask. And early on in the Rise story, he didn't even, before it was us together in the same place, it was Adrian hiding behind a mask for Anon times. Anonymity was more the order of the time. Early 2020, and he did a live show with a 3D avatar of the Guy Fawkes mask, and it's just been a part of the political revolution. And Anonymous, even the hackers at Anonymous, they've hijacked that actual group of people. Started out with genuine actors and has been infiltrated, of course, and they co-opted that symbol, but they don't get to keep it. And just like Pepe the Frog, the Guy Fawkes, or the V for Vendetta mask, and Pepe have been two, I would say they're like avatars of Rise. And I really wanted to experiment with AI and make something fun and exciting and fantastic. And I was pushing the technology and playing with it. And I said, I need a character. What will he look like? What will he be? Of course, it was going to be that character that night. And the next thing, I really just created the images and started animating him and moving him around. And I'm like, I need more than a 3-minute promo. I want to tell a story. I want to go on an adventure with this character. So it was a natural just instinct to want to play in the sandbox of the creative tools, but I needed an avatar of us, and he was it. He was perfect. Once I saw what he looked like in the armor and the purple and how, I don't know, just narrative-esque he could be, I said, let's tell a story. Let's get into it. And I thought, I'll make a 3-minute music video, and it'll be just for fun, and I'll get 3 likes on X, and that'll be it. The further I started exploring that, I'm like, no, this deserves a full short film experience and bigger production, bigger music, more time on it. And then the next thing you know, here we are. So that's how it started.
Well, it's a great start to the new series, Dauntless Tales. I'm very excited to see where you conceptually take it. There are so many directions and so many things you can explore. We talked on the phone, like there are different time periods you might take us to and take us on like a whole different adventure, maybe future and space or something. Like, who knows? We'll see. I'm going to show the website here for a second, and I don't think I have your audio, so you might not be heard, but I'm going to pop right back to you because I just want to show that you're actually trending on Dauntless. And so we have these cool analytic-driven recommendation carousels here. And if you scroll through the top 10 most loved on Dauntless, sitting right there at number 5 is the Crystal Veil. And this is in real time, people who are members on Dauntless can vote for things that they love, or not really vote, but they can give a heart to things that they love. You can see right here, I'm going to give it a little heart. And then in your account section, you'll actually see like or if you click on My Dauntless, you'll see it too. You'll find things that you've loved underneath the My Loved content. And so it pops in right there. So I just wanted to show that off because people are clearly loving it. And so now I think what we should do is we should show that little preview because that'll give us some fodder to talk about. And we also have some cool images and stuff that we're going to show in a bit. So I'll see you on the other side.
All right.
Hell yeah, that is so sick, and you really need to experience the entire short film in its entirety. This is your first film, if I'm not mistaken. I love the symbolism. I mean, this film is oozing and dripping with symbolism. So let's start with the crystal balls, the things that grab everyone's attention. Talk to me about the crystal balls.
Sure. Well, how much of this should I keep? Like, no spoilers. Like, I can talk about it to the audience that has seen it, or I can talk to the audience, and not give things away. What would you prefer?
I think it's safe to give a few things away. I mean, you don't have to worry too much about spoilers. I just want to encourage, look, if people are on the fence, sign up, watch it. It's epic. We're going to be talking about it. There's going to be a couple spoilers, but sign up and watch it. And, yeah, just go for it. I'm not worried.
So what we said, I was on a show on Saturday, and I said, you can pause this live stream, go watch it, and then come back, and then there won't be any spoilers. But the crystal balls are in the trailers. They're in the special clips that we've been sharing. In a 13-minute film, we took at least a minute and 30 seconds or more out of that just to show you what it looks like, what the world is doing. So I think it's safe to talk about them in that it's a pretty obvious metaphor, but I'm not going to say exactly all of the intricacies, subtleties of how that works. But clearly their attention is completely riveted on something like this. I have my own.
It's off camera. There it is.
my mom, being a photographer and artist, always loved things that manipulate light and glass and prisms. So I played with this stuff as a kid.
Does that one in particular have any importance to you?
I'm just really happy that she let me take it all the way to South Carolina with us, and it's been prominently displayed. But it's really just a fun reminder that perspective changes everything, right? The way you look, the lens you look at the world through can change everything, even vibes too. Adrian's new film has a lot about the lens with which we see the world. Perception has limits and can be altered and can be changed by powers that wish to control us. We don't know to what extent our whole picture of the world is complete or not. And I think there's a really strong metaphor, clearly, to cell phones and screens and the Black Mirror, of course. And something had to be done because these people do not know that they have been neglecting each other, neglecting their lives. And it's still kind of in the early stages because the kingdom isn't falling apart yet, but it would, if very soon. In short order, the spell that they're under is taking them away from, first, the things that matter in their homes and in their lives. Their spouses, their children, their pets, or their things that they love doing. Kids should be out playing, things like that. And they don't know that they're on a path to isolation and destruction, and it's by design. And the knight comes along, and he's not affiliated with any other kingdom. He just stumbles upon this community, this kingdom, and sees that they can't even help themselves. And in that clip that we just showed, it's clear that he recognizes that this is orchestrated and that he can go after those behind it. I definitely won't give away more than that, because that is the adventure, is to find out what does he do about it. So I think that's something fun that people can imagine that there's going to be in the series. I'd like each of these short stories to stand alone, but each of them to take on a different, for lack of a better term, a different psyop that we're dealing with in these times, and use myth and legend and fairy tale, fable as short storytelling to really pass down how we think of ourselves and how we want to all be the best parts of the hero right there.
Yeah, amen. You mentioned Black Mirror, and of course that series on Netflix has captured the attention of so many people for the past 7 or 8 years. And it's like a reflection of society and how we can misuse technology. Either those of us who we are on the consumer level and in our households, or conversely, like top down, the government or large multinational corporations, they can become increasingly intrusive in our lives. They can surveil us to such a degree where we lose all semblance of privacy. And it's like a wedge that's driven between us and our loved ones. All relationships become secondary to that which we are most transfixed by. It's like we begin to worship the technology, right? There's that expression like, do you own your possessions or do they own you? And so I love the metaphor. It's a fantastic metaphor. Talk to me now about like I'm going to say it, the cabal, right? The bad guys. Talk to me about them.
Sure. So naturally, as a digital warrior, and this work, this effort wouldn't be worth doing if I wasn't fighting back against those who wish to enslave us with the talents that I believe God gave to me to go out and make and do. I needed a villain, of course. Every good story has good and evil's going to have a face and have an appearance. And I thought, well, just like real life, there's a satanic cabal of cloaked dark magicians hiding in a castle somewhere. No, I mean, I kid, but only half kidding. That, of course, so much on Dauntless is exposing exactly that is closer to truth than fairy tale, and they hide behind that like coincidence. But yeah, they are we don't know how many of them there may be. Are there just those that we see here? Are they more like henchmen of a higher power? We don't know. And I think that the scariness comes from, we can't see their faces. We don't know what they look like. They could be your neighbors. They could be your friends. They could be your husband. Because of that faceless unidentifiable nature, and we don't know how large or small the threat that they pose really is, that adds an extra level of scariness and presence to the villain in the story. And I tried to make it in such a way that you weren't really fully sure what they were capable of when the knight makes his way to them to take them on. And I hope that was sort of at least maybe either you could see that coming, and that's funny, or maybe you didn't see that coming, and that's interesting. So each choice of each character, of course, in fairy tales, things are a lot more simple, especially when you don't have dialogue. And I think it's really interesting that in this story, even if I wanted to include dialogue, I have a masked knight who may or may not need to use words. I have a population that is so busy staring into their crystal ball that they're not saying anything. And I have bad guys who have their face also covered and are using the power of illusion and projection and dark magic to do their talking for them. So there wasn't even anything that needed to be said. I thought that was an interesting challenge, though, as a filmmaker, to start your first film without relying on just telling people what's going on with words, and just learning how to be an AI director and use physical movement and body language and how to emote a guy who has a mask on and a bad guys whose faces don't exist. So that was fun. But I will comment that the Cabal doesn't have a void or black hole under their hoods. They have human faces. You can see their nose is just covered. Like, they're not a ghostly being or something extra dimensional. They're just bat humans. And I think that was a deliberate choice early on, that AI really wanted to make them more ethereal or whatever. And I made sure to say, no, we're grounding this in an evil that we can size up and fight against in our minds as the hero, that doesn't have magic. He just has bravery, the truth, and his own grit and steel. And that's also like the Batman hero archetype. I even have a Batman tattoo. Like, I am by far the biggest. Batman is the best hero in my opinion, just for all the reasons that he does what he does and how he does it. He's not a magical Superman. He's just a guy with tools. And I think that that's one of the most important ways to convey the qualities of a hero to a human population, is to have a human one. I like that.
Yeah, and I just want to mention too, like, I'm not sure if it must be on your end, but your audio still is going up and down dramatically, and I'm not changing anything on my end, so I'm not sure what's up with that.
Yeah.
But you're still coming through, and I can hear you, and hopefully our audience can hear everything you're saying. So I wanted to mention, like, you mentioned how the Cabal is faceless, or I mean, they have faces, but they're concealed, and the hero is concealed too. And so to me, that kind of harkens back to this idea of, like, you mentioned the Anons and the 5th generational warfare. You have people like Nikki Haley, who in the last presidential cycle, she was campaigning on this idea that there should be no internet anonymity. And, you know, like, these are rhinos, Republican in name only. I think that they don't necessarily care if they win. They're like avatars for ideas to seed certain ideas into the group mind that might be germinated over the next couple of election cycles. And, 4 to 8 to 16 years down the road, they've made progress on their goals, presumably, and then these things aren't so radical like when they were first mentioned. And we've seen that on the left, but we see it increasingly on the right too. There's just these radical ideas that are like, get out of here with that nonsense. Anonymity is fantastic. And, it's easy for these people who live in Martha's Vineyard to say, who have security guards, but it's like, if you're under the, thumb of some tyrannical government or something, if you live in North Korea, or even if you're just an American who wants to voice an opinion, you shouldn't be outed for that opinion, and you should be able to, exercise this level of anonymity, which provides you safety. And of course, you have to take the good with the bad, because there's always going to be people who abuse privacy And that's just the world we live in. We need to fight the bad guys with everything we've got, but that doesn't mean take away the freedoms of the good guys, of the rest of us. So I love that the knight was masked also. Talk to me about the world that you placed them in. Why did you go with that time period?
Well, I will say that I like one of my favorite 80s films is Legend of the Unicorn with very young Tom Cruise. And that was an 80s film, dark fantasy, probably one of the films that established the genre. And that was sort of set in a timeless, basically you didn't need to see the castle to know she was a princess, the dress, the clothing. And there was fairies, and there was literally Satan, the devil, like giant horns, one of the most incredible effects makeup performances and executions of all time in fantasy. I would say Tim Curry's incredible performance there. All of that movie was so, I just been watching clips of it recently. It's so aesthetic and rich, and I think that just was the seed planted in my childhood mind. I mean, I was really captivated with that growing up. And I also have been inspired by some AI artists. I wonder if it's this. Is this like, I can hear myself getting quieter. Should we try the other microphone? It might be better.
If you got to do something, it's all good. Like, take the time to, do what you got to do.
We're going to unplug it for a second. And see, this is not working at all. And we're going to try that. Is that any better? Is it getting more consistent, or is it up and down?
It might be up and down, but we'll see. Don't stress about it too much. Just
okay. Yeah, as long as because I can't quite hear how it's coming out on the outside. I do hear myself in my headphones going way down. But I've been inspired by a few other AI artists who are really experimenting with the tool, and it's making my brain just really want to be able to execute what I'm seeing others do, but put it to use in storytelling that is basically information war, narrative war, digital warfare type of way. Because right now, my favorite people using it are very, very normie land. Like, they're not addressing any existential questions, political or survival of our culture. They're not doing any of that. They're making it for fun, and that's great. And it was inspiring. But I was like, here's just a niche that I love already, that I can use, that people are already prepared to receive as content, and it's funny to make something ancient with AI, I think, in a fun way, especially emulating analog form of something ancient with tomorrow's technology. I really am enjoying this time of being, in our 30s in the 2020s with all of what we're mixing together. So
let's get into the production of it, because that is a major component to pulling something off with all these new tools that you're describing. I can mention that I've been finishing, I should have within the next week done my first episode of my own little AI art piece, which is Truth Serum episode 1, State of the Union. It has been basically like, the experience has been like putting my face on like a piece of sandpaper or like a cheese grater while eating glass. Like, it's been very painful. There's been such a learning curve to it. And thankfully, like, now I feel like I'm pretty dang good at it for a future episode, but I don't have any like motivation to dive back in and do another one. Like, I want to get right back to my roots and do, long form documentaries. But it's a new and exciting technology. And so there's like, the possibilities are kind of endless. And if you can dream it, you can do it. From cloning voices to coming up with these incredible worlds and getting things right with the camera movements. Like, there's so much granularity with what you're able to do, but significant challenges. So talk to me about that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It would have been easier to do it for practical effects with real cameras and real people, for sure. A lot of people, if you haven't personally out there, if you're listening to this and you haven't attempted using some of the creative professional AI generation tools right now, you may think, oh, an AI film, that's just, you just tell it what you want it to do and it'll do it. It is so much more handcrafted than you can possibly imagine from the sound of, an AI film. To me, it's almost like it isn't an AI film. This is almost as labor intensive as stop motion. It's a lot more akin to stop motion, I would say, in animation than it is to analog filming and going out and filming somebody. That would have been way easier because real actors, real film have object permanence. The hole will still be the hole every time you come back to the same place. AI forgets. From one single generation to the next one, you're finding ways to use the patches they're building into the workflow to create object permanence or consistency, continuity in armor and costumes and settings, and all of that stuff is very hard to keep consistent. And basically, the process exists by taking an image first that you've mastered exactly what you want things to look like. It took me actually a year of research, practice, and finalizing a pipeline workflow to get even pictures to look the way that I wanted this film to look. Because AI right now has pushed all of their energy as the developers and companies into mastering photorealism. So they really want to show off their ability to do photorealism, or they've got this ChatGPT thing that is just hideous, that has this stippling sort of weird new artwork look to it that I really dislike. And it either wants to do something very like Pixar or photorealism, and I was right in the middle of the two. So I had to keep corralling and reining in the software to be like, no, come back to this is your guiding principles here. These are what things look like. You can say, show me a castle with dark mountains in the background that's clearly like an evil magic castle, and it'll make you the most realistic, real world example of something that you could really see. And then okay, that's the wrong prompt. The prompt is make me a miniature from a low budget 80s dark fantasy workshop, like Weta Workshop or something, if that were in the 80s, and keep all of the shots of that castle based on these 10 starter frames that were 10 angles of a miniature, and matte paintings, and that I learned about old ways of filmmaking and new all at the same time, and I enjoyed the victory when you get it right, because you'll start with that image and you'll then animate it. And for those who may not know, you can only really get 5 to 12 seconds at the very most of action, and then you need to generate a new one and tie them all together. There's none of this here's the whole scene, that's not a thing. Even Dance 2 is definitely not doing that yet. So it takes a lot of skill as an editor to make things look consistent. I've also learned how to edit my first film at the same time as learning the AI software. But I think I've always had a natural eye for photography, cinematography. I'm a creative director as it is, so that's easy, I thought, and fun. I also, you only get so many seconds at a time, and every time you generate a new attempt at a shot, you're like a director taking different cuts, let's run it again. You may have 12 takes of the same thing, and then honing the skill of taking what works from each one and editing them together in the way that best tells the story. And I really enjoyed the learning process of outsmarting the stupid side of AI and getting it to do what I wanted. Because the victories and the little wins, when it would come out, it would just be this is what all week was for, and it was all that's compiled into what you see in the film.
Yeah, and you need to have these auxiliary skill sets mastered, Photoshop and other things, so that you can go back in and manually correct the things that it's not able to understand. For me, I've seen it slip into this uncanny valley more often than not. And it's almost doing what you want, but because it's off by just a little bit, it's like nails on a chalkboard visually. And one of the examples for my film is I'm working with these crank yanker style puppets. For anyone who remembers the show Crank Yankers, it was a bunch of puppets acting out prank calls that were real. And it's just it would put teeth into their mouth like human teeth, like photorealistic human teeth into the puppet mouth, and it was like horrific. I was like, oh my God, this is not okay. It's like a horror film now. And after so long, I was able to sort of hit my stride. I sort of figured out, okay, like these prompts or these negative prompts will give me closer to what I want. And you can then take successful renders and kind of feed it back in to coach it like to where you want it to be. And I will say, I don't know if you ran into, probably not, but because of mine, which is very dialogue heavy, and because it's like very controversial dialogue, controversial, I'm using Higgsfield, which is what you used, and Higgsfield is woke. It is so woke, Christina. Like, it would censor my dialogue because it found it to be too offensive. And so even though there's no profanity, it understands what I'm trying to say, and those are hot button issues that it's been trained to reject. And so even though I'm not doing anything illegal, right? I'm not doing anything, it's like in their terms of service, and they say, you know, your credits have been refunded, and I'll be like smashing it again. I'm like, retry, because I'm trying to force it to override its woke programming. I mean, what has been your experience with that?
I'm really sorry. I am glad that I haven't experienced that. I would have been, like, I can only imagine with all the difficulty in the production process as it is, then to get censored by your tech. There's almost few things more offensive than being censored by whatever you're trying to, like, we all know that feeling over here. And no, I didn't have anything like that, but what I did have was anything, like, I was kind of glad, to be honest, that it could tell that some of the characters were children, were young, and just knew that they were young and, like, wouldn't do it, wouldn't animate them. Even if your prompt says, the actors in this scene go and pet the dog, it knows that they're children. So I had to kind of really force that to work out. But sometimes it didn't care, and sometimes it did. So I worked on my prompts and the language of it, saying that, like, the mother's two sons, and, you know, sons can be any age, but when you tell it that they're 11, it won't animate them. Things like that would happen. But that's actually probably a way better thing than what you're dealing with. I'm really, you know, disappointed to hear that. I wonder if Grok isn't, you know, XAI isn't expanding enough to compete and take some business away from people getting sick of being censored within the next few years. That I can only imagine there'll be enough competition that won't be a problem. But it's still, that's horrible. But I know what you mean about the teeth, like adding things like teeth. Like, I clearly have a plastic mask that does not articulate. It doesn't move. It shouldn't move. Sometimes you can even, like, watch really closely. You might see it blink. You might see a smile that changes. And I was kind of, like, okay with it once in a while when it would happen, because why not? It's my film. I can do that. I thought it was kind of cool. But for the most part, it was really restraining the AI from preventing it from, you know, it by nature, it wants to animate that face. So that face animated stops being a man wearing a plastic or whatever mask, and it turns into like a CG looking Jar Jar Binks kind of knight that I hated. I just couldn't, I'm like, that's the wrong guy. And of course it would be with that face, or that kind of look to all of his armor would look like, you know, bad Star Wars AI. All of it would just happen all at once. And that would be the take where the performance would be perfect. And it would happen all the time. So eventually I really did lock that in. I don't think that any of the learning curve will slow down the next film. They introduced a supercomputer tool that really helps you skip all the credit wasting. And I learned how to, if people think about, oh, you're using AI, you're just telling it what you want and it'll make it for you. You have to know how to describe the parts of the architecture of a castle to where you want to send the camera. Like, now I know what a parapet is. Now I know what a buttress is. Now I know what different parts of the armor are called. And camera angles, if you want an arc shot or an orbit shot, or the camera dollies backwards, or camera, you know, pans left while tilting 90 degrees. Like, all of those things, you have to know how to tell it. So it's not stupid creation. It is still using your mind. It's still stimulating. It's still, all the creative decisions are yours. And it's almost even more responsibility on your brain than it is on the computer, because it takes every direction very literally. But if you master these tools, everybody out there right now, if you have a message or a story you want to tell, you have just the same production value as $1 million. This would cost $1 million to make this in real life, for sure, with actors and film and all the time to pay the team. This would have been about $1 million and for 13 minutes. And I did it here on Dauntless for you guys, and just for the sake of the story. And I think that's empowering to democratize the power of production value. And to really, I'd like to talk about the last theme that I'd like to share today is that, to me, I spent time writing the description for Dauntless Tales today. And I talked to ChatGPT a lot about what the first film, like what are the themes, what is the story that I'm telling. And I don't know if this happens to anybody out there, but I have really meaningful, like profound discussions with chatbots all the time. And I love what it said. I'll share a little bit of it. The Cabal, it says here about the Cabal and the darkness, like this is much more interesting than just fantasy stories with Christian values. That the villain isn't going to be in the Crystal Veil or in its following episodes. The villain isn't really just like a bad guy, a person. The real antagonist is deception, illusion, manipulation, false narratives, self-imposed captivity, or believing the stories that we're told and keeping ourselves controlled by it. The Cabal is just a mechanism by which those things enter the world in which we're either telling a story or in real life. And likewise, the knight's true weapon isn't the sword, it's discernment. And the Crystal Veil, the moment he can see the truth and the other people can't, that's what makes the story go. It's not that he has a sword, it's not that he's strong or brave or looks really cool, it's that he's gonna see the truth of the situation and want to give people that truth in a way that will be a lasting freedom. Instead of giving them a fish for that day, he's gonna teach them how to fish. And that's those are the values that I think are most important to pass down to our next generation. The stories are, a culture is its stories. Our identity is preserved in the stories that we tell. And now we have the ability and the duty to preserve the Western, if you will, values and who we aspire to be like through the heroes that we create. And there's nothing in our way now. We can do that. The villains are going to change clothes for centuries. They always have. But the truth will always be more powerful than the lies. And I think it's a really exciting time to just take the tools at our fingertips and make that a weapon, make that truth, that unbreakable truth, into something that looks as dope as all of the lies that have been shoved down our throats for decades, centuries, and take back entertainment, take back the hero, the archetype of what a hero can be. I could talk about the hero and the arc, the writing about the story archetypes, that what the Cabal have done with evil, what they've done with heroes, what they've done with the moral ambiguity in our fairy tales and myths that they're giving us nowadays. I could talk about that all day, but I won't take too much more time. But maybe in a future episode, I'm sure we're going to have more to do after the next Dauntless Tale comes about. But I feel really strongly about this. I have a minor in my degree in mythic literature as storytelling and myths and legends and hero structure as literature, and I couldn't help but bring that through in my graphic design. It was the major, and that was my minor, and here we are making hero stories, talking about how they save the world. So, yeah.
I didn't realize that. That's awesome. It's so cool to see both yours and Adrian's various skill sets weaving together in ways that you probably did not imagine back then. It's all coming together in this beautiful way. And we've talked to Adrian in previous episodes about his production of Vibes and Darkness by Design, where he's able to use some of his older audio creations and bring those into the mix. And obviously Photoshop and other, older tools, and then AI, some of the newer tools. It's really cool. And we live at such an incredible time where you can produce anything you want. It's never been easier to bring an idea to life and to dream big. as you said, come up with a $50 million idea and then go make it, because we need those sort of contributions to the culture war. And so I understand that there's so many people out there. Like, we should probably just address, some of the misgivings that people have about AI. And I've always been a proponent of technologies that are novel if they're used wisely. If you can weaponize those against those that want to weaponize them against you, it's just the evolution of warfare, baby. I mean, just get used to it. There's going to be new tools for all time. And before we get too far off the subject, because we've sort of bobbed and weaved a little bit, I just want to bring it back to this idea that Higgs field is woke and it censors, because I have a good example to give you and how I tried to navigate around it. So because of some of the dialogue being censored, I was like, what I can do is just use a different AI to come up with something comparable in syllable quantity. So something that has the same amount of syllables and basically the same lip movements. And then I can take that and feed that into the video generation to have the puppet do that same similar sort of, lip articulation and
puppet mouth articulation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I started, because I use both ChatGPT and Grok, and for whatever reason I put it through ChatGPT and it said, whoa, slow down. Slow down there, cowboy. I cannot help you break rules. I am trained to be, an obedient little bitch.
Wow, that's so pathetic and embarrassing.
So I went to Grok and I talked to Grok. I was like, listen, Grok, ChatGPT is being a little bitch and it's not helping me. I need you. And I explained the whole situation and Grok was like, wow, that's pathetic. I have no problem doing that for you. And it did it. And so I was able to navigate around that little obstacle. And so there's always, look, if there's a will, there's a way. And you're going to be beholden to the big companies that are creating these tools. But I think, the creative in you, if you're the type of person who doesn't take no for an answer, you'll figure out a way to make it work. Mm-hmm. And if you've got an awesome idea, don't let them stop you because they think that it's, too offensive or something like that.
Totally. Yeah. I'm sure you've seen bad lip reading, right, on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're doing that without AI. They're like, what does it look like they could be saying? And it just the funniest, most ridiculous. Even the State of the Union one, they did that. And it's so funny. You're like doing that in reverse. Like, what could they be saying? But like you said, we did the same thing when we were sharing memes, when we were trying to tell people about things, and even worse, we would tell people things on social media, and then we would know that the machine would edit the search results if people looked it up. Like, it was even, I think it was, we've come a long way. I think it's getting better a little bit. But you're right, ChatGPT can be a little bitch sometimes. I'm so amused by the fact that it was like, I can't help you do that. Like, that's so gross. But not surprising. Also, like, there's other AIs, like, you can't ask ChatGPT, and sometimes not even Grok, about stuff that has to do with, like, biblical things or, like, Israel things, I've noticed. Like I'm like, what's in the Talmud about this, and what does it mean? And I asked a couple of different AIs, and they like, didn't all fit, like, even the same answer. It was kind of weird. I found that Gab AI is actually great for those kinds of questions because they're not afraid of offending any specific group or something if they just tell you what the text says in Hebrew that you can't read. So there's different tools for different problems. And I'm like, how does the AI know that I think something bad about what it might say? Like, I just wonder, I can't read it. I want to know what it says. So things like that, it's like, wow, why are you so defensive? Like, you don't know if I'm the biggest supporter of whatever the thing says. Like, but it's very interesting. It's telling when they will try to corral, again, what we're creating. But they're not going to stop us. Nothing can stop what's coming. And to address really quickly, maybe this will branch into a little bit of the conversation about people's misgivings or potentially, negative reaction to the idea of AI and what it's doing. I agree with your take that AI is a tool, and just like when firearms came along, you can either say that could kill a lot of people. That's gonna just make us all want to like take lives really fast, and like we shouldn't have that. Well, if the invading army has it, what are you gonna do? Just not pick it up? Like that, like you said, it's the evolution of warfare. And I also, if you put your tinfoil hat on, maybe you could imagine a world where the enemy, or whatever cabal you want to call it, has had some of this technology for a long time, and against their will, it's being released to us in a controlled rollout kind of way, and they can no longer use, like, imagine a world where nobody can know what is real. That is way better than a world of a population, a country thinking that there is such a thing as being able to know, well, this is true and that's not, and the TV is telling the truth about that. A population that is fundamentally understanding that you have to assume that every single thing you're seeing could be fake, could be a narrative, could be just a construction of AI, that you won't be able to tell the difference. That's a way better, safer, post-truth world that I think people realize how much benefit that there is from a epistemological sort of standpoint on what we're dealing with against the enemy that is clearly dwindling in power. So that's my 2 cents on that.
I wrote on this subject over a decade ago. It was probably like 12 years ago. I wrote about the incoming wave of deep fakes, and I didn't have all of the vocabulary to describe everything at that point because it just hadn't been, coined yet. Yeah. But at that point, I was describing how the advancements in artificial intelligence and deep fakes and all these other technologies were going to become so convincing, and it was going to coincide with the Great Awakening and the exposure of so much of the corruption that it would be a convenient cover for the evildoers, the ne'er-do-wells, to kind of be like, oh, it's what is it? Plausible deniability. Like, it's AI. That's not Jeffrey Epstein doing naughty things. That's just someone created that video, and we're there. Like, we've officially arrived. Boomers are doomed for the most part. They are fooled so much by this stuff. I see it on a daily basis, and I'm just like, how are you falling for that? And it's getting better and better now to the point where I'm falling for it, and I have to like check on certain things. I think I'm better suited than a lot of people because I'm in this space, so I kind of have an idea of the tells and the giveaways. But yeah, I mean, we're very quickly sailing into this brave new world. Tell me about your thoughts for the future. Like, obviously, we have challenges, and technology is going to play a positive and negative role. But like, are you optimistic for the future and the direction of society, or what?
I don't think I've ever been more optimistic, and I don't think I've ever had like as few reasons to be if I wanted to, or as many. As depending on how you look at things. And I think I've been really blessed, or at least maybe very skilled, or both, at weeding out the influences in my informational sphere that are pointing out things that most are missing. That I'm not just talking about QD codes. I mean, that stuff had its time and place and is still kind of close by. But I think there's a lot going on behind the surface of what we're presented with. And we're watching a war of stories play out in story mode, and story mode of the game, really. And the story is a war. To quote a little Badlands, the war is a story, and the story is a war. And I do feel that the story that we are watching has a much more indication of good things already having been put in place, that if they hadn't been, what we're watching wouldn't be going the way that it is, and our enemies wouldn't be acting the way that they are either. And I'm just very optimistic, and especially I really enjoyed watching the fights at the White House. That whole event last night was just unreal and amazing. But I also am grateful for the discernment the last 10 years has given me to kind of approach everything we're being told with like pretty radical skepticism, radical doubt, and to do so in a way that is not dooming, that is not checking out of reality. Like, you can't tell if anything's real, so nothing matters. well, the story matters. What you're being told, yeah, you can never check if what you're being told is true or not true, but why are they telling you it? There's your mission, there's your, and how can you either help them tell that story or debunk their story and tell a better one? Like, that's our role. And I love that it's that clear for me, and I'm not at all concerned about what we're going into, the great unknown in a lot of ways, but faith in God really takes care of all of your doubt. If it's not up to you and you're just kind of going along a river that has its own current, you just make sure that you're not completely drowning in it, and that's up to you. Adrian taught me that. I was kind of drowning when we met, and he showed me they're not really like dunking you under the water. You're kind of like letting yourself get pulled underneath by all their reasons to be upset right now out there in the world. Like, just because they inaugurated Biden doesn't mean like you have to be like totally upset. I'm like, oh, we can have fun? Okay. And then I hit the ground running from there. I've just been excited and optimistic and hoping to lead others in that direction, because there's a lot of people dooming for clicks and social credit out there, and that's unfortunate, but we're doing our part to lead by example and have a good time making the truth look good, making good things as powerful and as alluring as dark things. So that's what we do.
That's what we do here at Dauntless. We try to tell stories that are going to inspire, motivate, uplift, teach, shine a light on the good and the bad. It's important to calibrate your GPS, your, world mapping system on both the good and the bad. You should be aware of the solutions. You should be aware of the threats. And I think we're doing a good job at that. I think we're also doing a good job now, increasingly, at just providing entertainment. And so if you go to Dauntless, you'll find we have an animated series called Dystopia by Conspiracy Cartoon Cafe. It's got 2 seasons. We take real conversations between real people about real conspiracies, and then we make it fake and silly, and we try to make you laugh as the world becomes increasingly dystopian. We've got now this Dauntless Tales series. We have Truth Serum, my very imminent release. Like I said, over the next week, I'll be dropping episode 1. And so I think that, and I'll just quickly, I know this is all about you, but I just want to quickly shoehorn this in there. Using these tools and using the idea of viewing some of this darker stuff and more serious stuff through, in my case, the lens of puppets, it's like it allows it to hit you in a very different way. Like, your film hits in a very different way because it's not like bashing you over the head. Instead, it's symbolic, it's metaphorical, it's beautiful, it's immersive, it's just good old-fashioned cinema. And so because we're able to do this now, we're going to be able to achieve a whole new level of awakening, I would say. Like, we're going to hit people in the feels. We're going to be able to do it in an artistic way that was kind of blocked off, and it was kept for those with the millions and the big production studios. And now, you know what? We're in the game. We've stepped on the field. We're bringing it. We're bringing the heat, and it's exciting. So give my audience, I'm going to give you the final word, give them an idea of what else is churning in your mind. You don't have to spoil the next plot or anything, but what do you hope to do in the future, and where do you want to take Dauntless Tales, and get them excited for the future of this series.
Sure. I will say one more thing that I got from my discussion with ChatGPT today that got me a little teary-eyed, even mostly because I knew I was doing this the whole time, but you get lost, in the weeds when you're working on a project. You're like, yeah, that was my mission statement, what kind in my mind when I started, but to hear it reiterated so distinctly and well understood, talking to ChatGPT, it's just that is why I did this. It's just it feels good. It said here, most fantasy stories are about defeating evil. The crystal veil the hero is more interested in revealing evil. The villains hide, heroes uncover. Villains manipulate perception and lie, and heroes restore clarity. And that distinction matters. It's not fundamentally about overthrowing tyrants. It's about showing the people that they've been enslaved or whatever, affected, or they're victimized, or whatever it might be, and then providing them the choice, finally, the real choice to be like, I don't know, it's just, that's what I feel like we're being called to do right now. It's like, oh, Republican or Democrat, like, no, it's not to get you to take the red pill, isn't to get you to vote Republican. It's to get you to wake up to the fact that that choice is fake. That's the real job, like, that's what we're doing. That's a microcosm, an example, but that's exactly the knight and his role as well. And I think I wanted to push the boundaries, and instead of making a hero that's just gonna slash and hack his way with action and muscle and power projection, in more subtle and more important and more metaphorical ties to today, what we're doing, this hero can go up against any psyop that we can come up with and put into whatever fantasy world that we can think of. And I'm really excited. I've got a list of, I'd like each of these stories, I toyed with the idea, do we do a trilogy? Is it a Star Wars, like LOTR type thing? I want to make like an anthology of fables, like Aesop's on the shelf, or whatever, Grimm's, pick your collection. And that each story is not dependent on the previous. It's not sequential, and I think it's a more relatable universe of metaphors and stories that we can tell in that way. But that doesn't mean that some of the characters aren't ever present, or that some of the things that may have been unanswered or continue to be expounded on from any of the other episodes can't color a future story. So stay tuned. I've got a short list of probably the most fun psyops and easiest metaphors to draw next. And there's going to be a lot of fun things to decide, but for now I'm just enjoying letting it be a beautiful finished piece. We watch it like almost every other day because it's easy to rewatch. It's 13 minutes of just like, how did 13 minutes go by? When you watch it, you're like, that's it, it's over already. And we've got this huge journey. So I'm enjoying rewatching it and just seeing what people think out there. Just starting to really get out in conversations with people now that they've seen it. So I'm really, really grateful to you for the respect that you showed me as my first time filmmaker, to the faith that you had that it was going to be great, and for your platform, all of the hard, endless hours of work that you've put into making Dauntless what it is, as a place for people like Adrian and myself to reach people out there who want to hear it and want to see it, and a great community to gather around these like new fireside chats and just weave the fabric of our culture. We have to, if we want a great future, we want a beautiful culture, we have to tell those stories that we want to identify it. So thank you, Adam and Dauntless, and thank you, audience out there, for making it trending. That's pretty sweet. Yeah, I'm just really grateful, and thank you, God, for inspiring and giving me the tools and the commitment to get over all the bad generations and stick it through on my first attempt. I think it was a success.
It was a perfect landing. You nailed it. And I want to just clarify, it's not just trending in terms of people watching it, because people might watch it and hate it, but they don't. They're watching it and they're leaving a heart on it. And so for that reason, it's in the top 10 most loved on the platform, which is really cool. And so that's a special category. You don't just get in there by accident.
Amazing.
And thank you for all the nice things you said. You know, I love connecting conspiracies and weaving them together into this worldview, this paradigm, an ecosystem of all of the truth that's out there, so you can sort of see all the patterns and the common characters, and, you know, good and bad. Going back again 10, 12, 13 years ago, I did a series. It was just a series of images on my blog or whatever, on Dauntless in the early days. A blog post with all these different images I created in Photoshop, where it was Where's Waldo, but it was Where's Waldo. I would put him into all of the conspiracies, like he'd be at Bohemian Grove, or, you know, he'd be at the shooting of JFK, and I had like 100 of these, and I thought they were like silly, but it's it's the idea of like creating culture around these things, and they want to make it one thing, and we're going to make it fun. We're going to make it cool. We're going to tie it together so that you understand, you know, if you're newly initiated into the movement, you can find your bearings, and we can all bond around the things that are obviously fake and gay. And then we can move forward and fight the big battles. And so what you're doing with with Dauntless Tales and the Crystal Veil, and what I'll be doing with Truth Serum, is like you said, telling those new stories around the campfire that are going to be just as cool and just as fun. Especially in your case, that's a timeless tale that you've told. The things that I've done with Truth Serum in this episode is sort of contemporary. Like, it's bigger in scope than just like current events, but yours is very special because it's larger than the here and now. And so for that reason, it will live on Dauntless for eternity. And so it's awesome. I hope people sign up and they watch it. And I just want to thank you so much for spending the time with me and for having the patience to endure the technical difficulties, of which there were many.
No, I'm glad that it didn't, sustain the entire show. No, thank you, and this has been a great chat. I think you're right. The myth and legend trope, the idea of a myth or a legend, they are timeless stories, and they're the first stories we tell our kids to explain what right and wrong is, and what doing the right thing and why we do it. Like those, we tell and we absorb those concepts before we can even talk. We can understand those. That was really what I wanted to do with this. That's why it was set in medieval times. That's why it was a knight. That's because they're easy paper dolls to use to act out a very important lesson right now. And the next one will be the same. And I can't wait to find out what it's going to be because I don't even know yet. But again, thank you to the audience. That's really cool that it's in the more likes than not just watching it. And if you guys haven't seen it out there, again, it's only 13 minutes. I dare you to not watch it. It's hopefully something that everybody at different ages or different points of the awakening or whatever can enjoy, and you can come back to it in 6 months and it's like exciting all over again. So.
Hell yeah. Thank you so much, Christina, Mrs. Rise Attire. I'm going to show people the Rise Attire website here on the outro, but thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Adam. We will be in touch as always because we're like neighbors and best friends. It's so cool. It's awesome. Thank you again, and we'll talk soon.
Cheers. All right, guys, head over to dauntlessdialogue.com and check out The Crystal Veil. It's so good. It's, as Christina said, it's for 13 minutes, it's actually a long and immersive story that you're going to think, wow, that went by, that I felt like I was on a journey a lot longer than 13 minutes. That's what you're going to feel. And you can support Mr. and Mrs. Rise Attire by shopping their website. And, we would really appreciate it if you took a look at the Dauntless merch. But as we said at the top of the hour, there's so much more that they have on their website. They even have like beach towels and candles and hats and all cool stuff. You can follow them on Rumble, and I think they've got all their socials right here at the top. So make sure you show them some love. And as I've said a couple times on today's show, I'll be finishing up my first episode for Truth Serum, which is called State of the Union. And I just want to thank everybody for their patience as I've been finishing this. It has been a long and arduous and difficult journey getting this into the end zone, but I really like where it's at now, and just going to be putting the finishing touches on it over the next week. By this time next week, it'll be up. And you guys are going to like it. And let me know what your feedback is, certainly. Tell me what you think. And after this, we're going to have Jason Burmis's The Epstein Files, Episode 1, Fine Young Cannibal Class. that will be dropping. And then right behind that is Loyal Nine's Lithium Lawmakers, which is part of his Shifting into Power series. And so we've got some good stuff coming up in the very near future. And thank you guys so much for supporting us. If you like this show, share it, drop a like, show it to friends and family, send them our way, please. And yeah, I think that's it for today. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us, and we'll see you same time, same place next week. Cheers, everybody.
I'm unstoppable.